Take it away.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hey, guys. The boat is coming any moment. Everybody's going to the boat party? Yeah, I think so. So I think the clicker is almost working, but not quite.
Sure, these work, and in the meantime, we're going to take a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
Clicker is working.
Oh, I see. It worked too well.
Okay. It's a little bit of a loose clicker. Loose clicker. And guys, don't worry, because a bunch of us are getting on the boat. You won't miss the boat. The boat's actually been slightly postponed because everything is running late, so don't worry about it.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is what this talk is about. It's about bringing the $2 trillion asset class to Web3. We just talked about tokenization, fractionalization. You know, $2 trillion is a big number, probably bigger than you thought that asset class was. You know, probably, who knows, how big is the Treasury's asset class? U.S. Treasuries. It's got to be on everybody's mind at the moment. It's like 30 trillion. It's 30 trillion. Art is a $2 trillion asset class, much bigger than most of the people think. And this is not art that's in museums, right? This is only art that is potentially tradable. This is art in private collectors, in private collections. This is art that can theoretically be in the open market. Now, it's not a very liquid market, because every time you trade art, the cost of transaction is very high. And, you know, each transaction is a pretty high value transaction, right? So it's about $1 million piece of art. So the question is how to make it more liquid, how to make it more democratic, how to make sure that more people participate, how to move this $2 trillion asset class to Web3. And that's really sort of the big question. I'll show you how we have been doing it already. And, you know, I think this is one of those RWA real-world use cases that is going to be among the first ones to take off. So when we talk about moving this asset class to Web3, what's needed is some kind of a platform that does it. So it's not just tokenization. I think I want to make sure that it's very, very clear, right? All the previous panel was about tokenization, fractionalization. That's part of it. But that's not the only way to do it. So there is this blue chip fine art asset class, $2 trillion worth of potentially tradable art sitting on the left. On the right is this crypto community, millions of collectors, investors, speculators, traders. Not all of these people are art collectors, obviously, right? The majority are investors, speculators, and traders. And yet, right, they're still buying art already in the crypto sphere. They're buying meme coins and meme art. They're buying NFTs. They're buying ordinals. They're buying runes. They're buying all that stuff. So the question is how to get them to buy that blue chip fine art that is packaged in some way, in a way that makes sense to them, appeals to them, be that if they're collectors, investors, speculators, or traders. So there are so far 4 ways that we have devised and have introduced. Well, we've introduced 3 of those, and the 4th is on the way. The first one is just basically when you trade art physically, make sure that all of the provenance is in the blockchain, which means that, well, you're moving at least a use case of trading art to the blockchain. So that's one. We did that a couple of years ago, and it's been running ever since with millions of, actually tens of millions of artworks traded in this way. The second one, the Web3 Studio, is all about taking, it's kind of like a launch pad for famous artists. So any artist who is, say, $200 million in market cap or more, which is how much art they have sold, well, its current market value, any artist like this, right? Because there are basically, the market is very concentrated. So about 90% of the total tradable art today is the top 200 artists. So really, obviously, that's where you would start, right? You wouldn't start with the bottom 10%, you would start with the top 90. So those top 200 artists with very, very high market cap would like to get to Web3 because they want to get to introduced to new audiences, they want new monetization opportunities and so on. But of course, they don't know how. So figuring out how is moving that part, that slice of the market to Web3 audiences. Then, of course, there is tokenization. Fractionalization needs no introduction. There was a whole panel about that immediately prior to that. And then there are DeFi products. So once you have lots of these little pieces of art, be that NFTs or ordinals or fractions, you can start packaging them up into indices, into funds, into ETFs. You know, make sure that you can not just spot trade them, but also derivative trading, options, perpetuals, futures, all that zoo that has already been created in Web3 can suddenly be accessible for Web3 audiences for this asset class. So this is basically what we've been doing. We've been funded by Binance, Animoca Brands, Hashkey, OKX, KuCoin, Gate, all the big guys, to basically do this, right? To bring this asset class into Web3 in this methodical way. So one thing that I haven't mentioned that is clearly also very important to be able to do that is access to those top artists. So all of us are not just crypto natives since 2016, 2017, but also have worked, or in my case, sold a company to the big art guys, the big arts, like the big tobacco, there's a big art, Christie's, Sotheby's, those kinds of guys. So I sold the company to Christie's, as Jennifer mentioned in her introduction. So we have access to all of these big artists who already want to get to Web3 in various ways. And we have also built this product for, every asset class needs data. So we've built what is now the market-leading product for providing market data to the art market. So if you go into any auction house anywhere in the world, you will see people on the LiveArt app checking prices. And that's because it's not just like the most comprehensive coverage of any art piece that has ever sold in the world, but it's also the current market value of every piece. It's indices for every artist, in every way that you can measure this asset class. And then on the right here is the way to package up this product for Web3 audiences, be that through the NFT Art Studio, right, which is NFTs by famous artists, or through the art fractionalization tech that takes physical paintings and then tokenizes and fractionalizes them. So methodically moving this asset class from legacy to Web3. So, the traction so far is that we've done about $34 million worth of such things. We've built a community of about 1.2 million who is buying, little pieces of art. About $1,000 pieces, half an ETH or so is the sweet spot for this community that we have built. And we have built this market-leading tech that is the data provider for the art world, both the legacy art world and the Web3 art world. So let me show you a couple of case studies of how this all comes together, so that it's not as abstract as it has been so far. So here is one artist. His name is Yumin Jun. He's one of the biggest contemporary artists out there, right? So if, in Asia, he's a rock star. Around the world, he's a rock star everywhere, really. All the major museums in the world collect his artworks. You can see that he got sold at Sotheby's, Christie's at $7 million, $4 million. It was a big artist. I would estimate $250 million market cap. So that's the total market value of everything that he's ever sold. At auction, he has sold $150 million, probably another $100 million privately. So about $250 million market cap. So a big artist, $500 million artist. Never done anything digital. So the question is, for an artist like this, that's a kind of a big chunk of this asset class, how do we move him into Web3? Well, you start by quantifying the artist. So this is in fact the artist index, right? That's the market cap for this artist, how it changes currently. What is the market momentum, right? Is the artist's price going up or down? For each individual kind of comparable artwork that you're trying to either tokenize or create an NFT related to, you see how its price has been changing and what are the comparable artworks. So you go through that sort of analysis first before you start publishing the digital asset that somehow is related to this artist's market or represents a physical painting in it. So that's one. The second is you choose where to put it. There was a discussion here immediately prior to this about which chain to use. Different artists want different chains. Different artists belong on different chains. An artist of this caliber would be either Ethereum or ordinals, so basically Bitcoin. Why? Because they seek permanence, right? For an artist, from his perspective, it's like he's used to putting his artworks in museums. He expects that his artworks will outlive him. So it has to be something permanent. The only two things that are perceived as permanent today are Bitcoin and sometimes Ethereum. But there are other artists who don't care, right? And so there are also fractions you can put on other chains that are faster, cheaper, and so on. But for an artist of this caliber, Bitcoin. So in this case, we actually put him on, we made an ordinals project out of it. So it looks something like this. There are 1,200 generative artworks that we have created, and I will show you how we combine the Web3 sensibility and the legacy sort of sensibility of this artist. You can, it's now in Magic Eden, in case anybody's interested in checking it out. So what we did is we created a few kind of iconic themes, iconic art history themes. So you can see this character, which is this smiling character, which is iconic. Everybody has seen it, everybody knows it, but put now in different scenarios, in different art historical contexts. You know, everybody has seen all the Starry Night and the Wave, like all these things are well known to even the beginner collector, right? So they're like almost like memes. In fact, I talked to the MemeCon, which is a meme conference, about this exact collection in Lisbon last week. And so from their perspective, from the perspective of meme art collectors, this is meme art. But it doesn't matter. It's still a way to bring this artist into Web3. So there is iconic art history, there are iconic places, there is iconic pop culture references, there is iconic Bitcoin memes, right, which are familiar to all of you. Basically a way to make this art relevant to the audience being Web3, the art being is a very established artist with a very iconic sort of imagery. So it was a $1.8 million edition, so it's 1,200 works at about 0.022 BTC each. And so that's sort of almost a $2 million edition. And it's not the first time we did it with this particular artist. With most artists, we do it multiple times. And then in the process of doing that, we build a distribution channel, which is partially retail and partially not retail. So it's a wholesale, which in this case, Sotheby's, I think it was last week, lot number 1 of the ordinal sale was in fact the Genesis ordinal of this collection, sold at about, what is it, 30% over the high estimate. So that's kind of an example of what we do. And then what we do next, right, once we have this collector audience for every artist that we introduce, we start saying, all right, what else are you interested in? In this case, we created a print series, which was basically every holder of the NFT, that's an NFT from a previous collection by the same artist, or an ordinal, can get a print. And here, you know, you can see Twitter is abuzz about, with people unboxing videos of those prints that they got and put on the wall that represents the NFTs, the digital representations of the artworks that they have purchased. There are about 1.2 million collectors currently that are in this network that are sort of looking for artists of this caliber to land on their, well, in this case, desk, in other case, the digital device. So we've done that for many, many artists. There are about 200 million of artist pipeline that is currently kind of, we are putting through the same channel. And as you can see, every time we do it, we work with a lot of communities, right? So it's not just about creating super high quality kind of art product that is both Web 2 and Web 3 on the intersection of the two, but it's also the distribution. So you see here on the right is the distribution through all the communities that are buying other NFTs, through Sotheby's and Christie's, through many other channels that we currently use. So that's case number 1, right? So that's sort of how you can launch really famous artists into Web 3, and suddenly this legacy asset class becomes a crypto asset class. Another way to do it is, of course, tokenization. I won't talk much about it because it's been talked about a lot at this conference, but it's the same idea. We haven't done this particular painting, so this is just an illustration, but just an illustration of how it's done with the same audience and with the same methodology. So here you can see this artwork being, you know, presented as an asset class. So it's quantified. You can see what the price trends have been, the momentum, for the last 12 months, the artist index for the last 10 years, the comparables, how the comparables kind of relate to the overall price appreciation of this particular asset class. All of that is automatically generated from this data source that I talked about before. And then there is an offer, right? So this is what the total sale, the reserve price, and the current estimate. So you're buying it below estimate, so it's a good price. That's the implication. And how the expected returns compare to the returns of other asset classes that you may be interested in. So that's how it's presented, and then it's fractionalized, right? So it's tokenized, then it's fractionalized. There are different kind of gamified ways of how we fractionalize it at NFTs, which you can then do things with to stimulate secondary market trading, right? So things like you can select the NFTs, the fractions, the pieces that have adjacent positions. So you can own a piece of the painting that is larger than an individual piece, or like pieces of the same color, or kind of make a pattern within the artworks. There are different ways to gamify it. Why bother to do that? Well, to stimulate secondary trading. Because the more these fractions trade, the better the liquidity, and the more secondary market products and derivative products and funds and indices and other things that you can put on top of it. So that's basically the story that I wanted to portray, right? There is a giant $2 trillion asset class here. There is a whole bunch of people who are already buying art digitally here. In our case, 1.2 million, but there are probably about 2 or 3 million total currently, and that number is growing. The question is how to move this asset class from here to here, and what are the different techniques that you can use. So if you're interested in this topic, please follow us on, I believe that's X/Twitter. It's our website, Telegram, Discord, you know where to go. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Boris. I just wanted to see quickly if there are any questions. I actually have one for you.
All right.
And for those of you who don't know, actually, I want to bring your attention back to the communities. It looks like we have 47 seconds left. There's a community slide. So I'm actually one of the first advisors and investors to the Pudgy Penguins project. Also, I'm a private investor in Animoca, and also, sorry, that's why I went back to get it. This is a Nizuki. I have like 18, so.
I think all of them are there.
Yeah, all of them are there. So basically, all of you guys who are apes, doodles, I have all those who are in the audience. My question is this, and one of the reasons I brought you this identities one, a lot of us collect NFTs as well as art, as well as, jewelry, fine luxury goods as an expression of ourselves. Does the art go up in value if it's a newer artist, undiscovered, or if it's a dead artist? Because actually some of the artists that I was looking at today, some of them passed away recently, and then the art value shot up. And we also know with Picasso in the city, he actually traded in one of his paintings for a drink, which I think was very provocative. Yeah. So that was my question for you.
Well, I think you answered it. The highest price appreciation, as sad as it is to say, is of an artist who just died.
Okay.
Because the supply is now capped.
All right, so I didn't mean to answer it.
I know, it's sort of macabre. No,
a little bit macabre.
This is the last, I believe it's the last event of the conference.
This is the last.
We have to end it on a happy note.
We have to end on a happy note. So actually.
Enough about the dead artists.
We don't want to talk about dead artists. There are also live artists and other artists.
It's a live art, it's not dead art.
One of the reasons why I sent you, actually I didn't send it to you yet, but I did the first piano performances on Ethereum. And I'd love to collaborate with you. Let me see. This is me playing in France on the piano. Cool. But we are the last panel, the last keynote for.
So who wants to be the last question?
Yeah, yes. Last question.
The last question of the last panel.
Last question.
It's a pretty basic question.
Yeah.
Talking to tokenization.
We can hear you.
We got it.
Again, it's really basic.
Sure.
Overlaps maybe with the NFTs that we understand a little bit and understand the kind of the images which are created digitally, no issue. But in a situation where you have a piece of artwork and you are digitizing that, tokenizing that, going back to some of the points raised by the previous guy in terms of the enforcement or legitimacy or the ability to maintain value in the token that you have. So you've got, one of the example you showed, you have the image or kind of components of that. How do you stop reproduction? How does the token holder know that there won't be reproduction multiple times of that same piece of artwork?
Of the, in which case? In the case of tokenization or in the case when? Tokenization.
So you're talking about provenance or
you bought
counterfeit?
Rights to that, you have
right.
NFT or whatever of that, or you have a component NFT of that.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, you pay X million and you have that and it's great. But again, how does that stop someone else from reproducing the same thing because it's just a visual representation?
Well, it's an NFT. It's a
So
non.
blockchain doesn't lie.
Reproduce that same NFT. How do you, I mean, do you,
Then it's not. It's not. The NFT is non-fungible by definition. If you reproduce it, it's a different NFT. So that wouldn't be part of the same collection. So it wouldn't represent. It wouldn't give the holder the rights to the underlying asset.
so does the physical owner of the asset enter into a contract to say there will be no other digital reproduction of this particular asset? How does the NFT owner know that someone else won't get an NFT because the physical owner of the asset allows an NFT reproduction of the same?
Oh, the asset is custodied. So once, yeah. The asset is taken off the market. Oh, it has to be. Absolutely. So right. So what happens? Right. It's not like a house that's sort of sitting there. An artwork is actually sitting in a free port, either here in Switzerland or in Singapore and Delaware, wherever the free ports are, and it's completely off the market. Yeah.
And vaulted. So for my digital assets, I vault everything. I put my jewels in safe. I mean, especially, I actually remember the Punks and Tiffany's collaboration.
Sure.
So basically, anyone who had the Punk, you could go get the one-of-one at Tiffany of that as well. I mean, but that is a very provocative question.
That's a great question because
great
it highlights, and I didn't mention it because I was going there fast, but there is a whole ecosystem around that, right? Custodians are a very important part of that ecosystem. They have to exist and they have to be properly regulated, blah, 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 blah. That's absolutely, like, the tokens that we're issuing are Swiss regulated tokens. And they, it's an interesting token design, but, without going into the details, it's very important because these are high price items. So it's very important that the digital thing actually represents that physical thing.
You know what I love about the community?
Well, you pretty much have to, and with art you can. Like with a house, I'm not sure what you do, but with art you can do it, and it happens all the time already because most of the art in the world is actually sitting in those free ports. Like 90% of the art, it's not on somebody's wall, it's not in museums, it's sitting in those warehouses.
What's really amazing is actually, so I have some friends who actually have Yue Minjun works, right? And what's amazing is Boris and LiveArt are enabling a whole new class of collectors. Never before can you go get 4.004 Bitcoin, this amazing artist, right? So I think that's actually the power of this asset class, but also this access, enabling access. And, I want to give him a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
No other questions, right?
We have to leave it at that. I'm so
sorry.
We have to go to the boat.
Oh, Boris, is the company based in Switzerland?
The token issuing company is based in Switzerland, yes.
He just moved to Switzerland.
I just moved to Switzerland
actually 2 days ago.
2 days ago. I'm a Swiss resident
He's a Swiss resident now.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to see you guys on the boat and other things later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Boat is leaving at 6:15, so you still have a little bit of time, but so you can grab your bags, everything. Don't leave anything here. Take everything with you to the boat. Thank you so much to our sponsors, IMC and New Hodler, for making this happen. Thank you so much.